Hello, welcome to the channel. As I promised you guys, I'm gonna do my best to showcase very special watchmakers here on my show. So today is no different. I have the pleasure of welcoming Reuben Schoots here to my studio. Hello man, how are you doing?
Very well. Thank you, Marco.
Awesome. So I've seen your work online.
Yeah.
And we finally had the chance to, to meet in person. I'm super happy and thankful to you that you came to the studios. So I can show, and I can see the watch for myself, first of all, and also share what I see with the audience. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well. So tell us, how did you begin, your whole journey? What inspired you to even go into watchmaking?
For sure. I traveled to South America in 2015 and I had a wonderful time, traveled around, I saw many countries, but during my travels, I contracted 3 tropical viruses and a parasite. Okay. And so I was really sick. I came home and basically my immune system collapsed. Long story short, I had a couple of years chronically fatigued in bed, basically doing nothing. I lost my job, I lost my social life, etc. And it was a really tough time. Yeah. But it gave me, a real gift, an opportunity to take time out and to think, what do I want to do? And sort of had like a pause on the rat race. And a good friend of mine came over and he was wearing a Seiko and had an exhibition case back, and I saw the movement, and that was my introduction into watches, basically. And the questions came up, who makes these, who works with them, and then I found that there was a profession watchmaking. Yeah. And from there, basically, it was New Year's Eve of 2017-18, and I was laying in bed with my wife just before the New Year's, and it came to me out of the sky, I'm gonna make a watch. And that was it. Yeah, nice. That was it.
Very cool. And how did you then start? What were the next steps? Because you live basically the furthest away you could, probably from Switzerland. Yeah. You're down in Australia. So.
Yeah, it's the opposite side of the world.
Yes. How was getting, information, tools? Did you learn from somebody there, or were you able to visit some shops and see some movements? Or?
It was incredibly difficult for me to find anything on watchmaking, how to make a watch, and I inevitably came across the book Watchmaking by George Daniels. Yeah. So I ordered it and I read it cover to cover in a couple of weeks. Then I put together a list of all of the tools that I thought I would need to make a watch. And then I looked online and I ordered the tools. I ordered a small watchmaker's lathe and, screwdrivers and tweezers. And then the lathe arrived, and then I realized I'd never used a lathe or seen a lathe. So I had to, put this lathe together. And the first challenge was to put an electric motor on the lathe. And then I did that. And then I set about making the Daniels tourbillon watch that's outlined in his book. Very cool. And it didn't take me long to realize that the challenge that I had taken was much harder than I anticipated.
Especially when you go smaller, correct?
Especially when you go smaller.
The movement here is quite big.
Yeah, it is 56 millimeters. It's significantly bigger.
Wow, but it's cool to see this in person as well. Like I saw it on your Instagram page and I just thought, can you please bring it with you?
Yeah, I'm glad.
So what are all these tools here and components? Is it just tests or?
So the Daniels method, the way the watch is made, is that every single component is made from raw material. So everything you see, I have made essentially from raw plate or bar stock. This is, everything in the Daniels book is hand methods, no CNC, nothing like that. So here we have an example of, this is a punch and a die to actually punch out the spokes on the escape wheel. So I made that, and essentially these two pieces, they go together. The escape wheel blank goes in here, they clip together, and then that it gets squeezed in a vise, and it punches the spokes out nice and square.
Nice. Never seen this before.
Yeah, that's a method I borrowed from Stefan Paller, a German watchmaker. And then here we have various pinion blanks to turn from raw steel. This is the spring detent from the escapement, and then of course the classic Daniels forearm stainless steel balance. Nice. The watch itself has a retrograde hour mechanism. So here's the prototype for that. Just testing it out on the dial side that normally sits in under here. Then the winding works and the click works. And the click works from here inspired the click works in my first series watch.
Yeah. Nice. Are you going to complete this watch? That's the goal down the line?
Absolutely, I will. I originally was just going, flat out focusing on it to finish it. But in the end, I realized actually it doesn't need to be something that needs to be, rushed to be finished.
Yeah.
It's more like an open book for me. I hope to see this watch evolve over my career and, one day to be the masterpiece at the completion.
Yes, yeah. I mean, plus, of course, you cannot spend all the time working on this. You need to also make a living, basically,
Absolutely.
correct?
Absolutely.
So that's why we came to the first watch here. So this is the Series 1 you created?
Yes.
So what here is made by you? What is not? What did you buy and then finish yourself? Because I see the dial is very special.
Yes.
I've never seen a dial like this before so far, which is cool. And the hand, so explain to us, what do you do here?
Well, I'll start with what I made. The dial is made of 4 individual components, of which I made all of them. So the chapter ring, the dial backing, the subsidiary seconds dial, and the nameplate. Then we have the hour and the minute and the seconds hand, which I also made. So everything on the dial side, I made myself. And the dial backing is a scraped finish, and it was heavily inspired by the precision ways of watchmaking machinery. They have this scraping pattern to achieve flatness and also to retain oil on surfaces that slide over each other. So that's where the inspiration came from, and I actually used a tool from my grandfather's workshop, and I modified it to scrape this German silver, which is not typically a material that's scraped. It's usually cast iron or steel. Yeah, I made the hands as well from flat stock steel, finished and blued to a purple blue, as asked for by Daniels himself.
Nice. And then the hours are engraved?
Yes,
and then
they're engraved. They're engraved and they're filled with India ink. There's a carbon suspension in a alcohol spirit.
Very cool. And then the movement as well, huh? So what did you do with the movement?
On the movement side, I made the barrel bridge, the wheel train bridge, the balance cock. I also made the click spring and the ratchet pawl and the little screws that retain them. I did the engraving and also made all the screws for the movement. It was a significant challenge for me to make the wheel train bridge, the barrel bridge and the balance cock because I wanted to make them with CNC. But in Australia, there are no CNC machines, and also being cost prohibitive to import, particularly at the time of the inception of this series. So my first challenge was to make the CNC machine. I have a mentor, Lindsay Drapsch. He's 80 years old, and he is a retired engineer. And he helped me build the basic machine, the manual milling machine. And then once that was constructed, he said, "You're on your own now. You can put the motors and do all the programming." So
nice.
that was the first challenge, was to make the machine, to make the watch.
Wow. So you basically are self-taught, correct? You didn't go to watchmaking school or apprentice with somebody, nothing?
No, I have no university degree and I did not study watchmaking. I'm purely self-taught watchmaking.
You have the most important component, passion and curiosity, huh?
For sure.
It's 2 components, I bet. Awesome. So what's the deal with this model, let's say? Is it a limited edition? What's the pricing? Because the audience we have on this channel usually really likes to support new independent watchmakers. And especially if the price is very appealing, but also they like to support, your future endeavors. So
there are 6 pieces. This is number 1 of 6, which is just engraved on the back here. And all 6 pieces were pre-sold. So I was extremely fortunate and very grateful. Thank you. I have really wonderful clients, and they believed in me. The price for this series was 15,000 Australian dollars. And again, it was about keeping the lights on basically at home, and it was not a money-making endeavor. But
it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Huh?
Not a get-rich-quick scheme, no. I'm yet to pay myself a salary. But I'm incredibly grateful to my first 6 clients for believing in me and for following through.
It's very cool, and the finishing is nice as well. What's the material of the components here of the bridges?
German silver.
German silver. Nice.
Yeah, and then the scraped finish from the dial is again here on the balance cock.
Very cool. So what's in store for you in the future? What's your big dream? Because if you follow these books, I assume you want to do everything yourself, correct?
Absolutely.
From 0 to 100%.
Yeah.
So what's the goal for the next watch?
The next series is going to have even more of the watch made by myself. The case and a further significant portion of the movements, which will give me a larger control of the aesthetic and also a greater satisfaction myself, because my passion truly is in making the watch. I'm not so interested in buying in components to finish. There's something in me wants to make and create.
Yeah, the whole thing.
There's something about making, a component from raw material. You see a wheel starts off as, like this, and then you cut the teeth, and then you make the spokes, and
then finish it.
That process for me is just magical. So that's where I'm going for the future, and for the subsequent releases, the plan is to just bring more and more of the watch in-house until the whole thing is made in my workshop in Canberra, Australia. And once that first big goal is achieved, then the second and the long-term goal will be to make a meaningful contribution to horology, whether that be through mechanism or complication or what have you. That's a long way in the future, but that's where I'd like to go.
Nice. So when can we expect, let's say, the new model? Or, these are all now delivered already or not yet?
These will be delivered next month, and the Series 2 will be next year, 2023.
Are they already spoken for, or can people actually write you and ask for a price and pictures?
Yeah,
because usually we show stuff, it's sold out, so it's like, Marco, come on, show us something that's available.
The numbers are very limited, but there is wriggle room for 1 or 2 pieces.
Okay, so go. Don't wait too long. And what's going to be the price point? Is it something you wanna say already or not yet?
Yeah, the price point for the second series is 52,500, and that's Australian dollars.
But again, considering more in-house components made and everything, that's just the next step, huh?
Yeah.
So what's your dream complication maybe, or what do you want to create one day?
I personally like simple, and so I'm not so interested in complications as much as perhaps simplifying the mechanism. That would be something that interests me. I do love tourbillon for its its beauty and its presence. So perhaps this sort of angle. But really, for me, as it stands today, a really perfect watch for me is time only with perhaps an up-down indicator.
Gotcha.
Maybe day of the month, but
nice. A simple three-hander. I would love if you would make pocket watches. This is something I like. For sure.
Well, maybe one day when I finish this one.
Maybe, but if it takes a few years, it's going to be expensive pocket watch. Reuben, thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure to meet you as well, and also to see the watch in person. If you guys have any questions, obviously just shoot him on Instagram, DM. He's always very active on there, so that's really cool. You're young, so that's where you also get the techie stuff correct. So guys, if you have a suggestion who we should have next year on the channel, obviously leave a comment down below. As you see, I try to really make this happen so we can feature many creative young minds on this show. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you next week.